So from here, we really need to start making a plan of what can we do with this information that's coming back to us. So Nate, let's start brainstorming.
Yeah.
What can I do with this information?
Probably put it like in a box. And
yeah.
Put a bow on it and give it to your mom.
That's true, but that's not helpful.
No, you were asking for helpful. Well then we should take off the 2 last digits because that's what we want to give to our fader. You got to be more specific. I didn't know you wanted me to be helpful.
Thanks, Nate. Thanks for being a friend. Let's actually engage our process of thinking. Our thinking process means that we need to come up with a game plan. And in fact, Nate has given us part of that game plan. One of the things that we need to do is, what did you say, Nate? You said...
Put it in a box, give it to your mom.
No, not that. You said something helpful.
Take those last 2 digits.
Take the XX digits and do what with them?
Well, that we're gonna give that to the lighting fader so that it's properly representing what the controller's doing.
Okay. I think you actually combined 2 ideas there.
Sweet.
One of them is let's take the XX string characters out of the string. And then you actually, I think, also said that you want to then put the XX info into the fader, right? Anything else?
Sounds like we got to convert it from a string to a number along the way.
That's true, because, we had this long conversation about different data types. When should we do the conversion, Nate? In between, right?
After we get it, now we got some strings, then we want to convert it to a number, and then we give it away.
There we go. So we're going to take the XX string characters out of the string. We're going to convert XX string into XX numbers. And then we are going to put XX numbers into the fader. Anything else you think we need to do? We've seen that our so very polite lighting controller has actually created an extra problem for us.
You're saying that if we take the current data that it's sending us and we peel off the last 2 characters, we're going to accidentally send it 03 because that's the port of that message, and we don't want to send that to the fader at all.
That's correct.
That'd be a problem.
That's correct. So actually, the first thing that we need to do is we need to figure out some method of sorting the returns, because we've already seen that sometimes we get a so very polite message, which is wonderful, but we don't care, it's actually in the way. We only want to focus on the LVL at messages, right? Those are the ones that are really useful to us. Those are the ones that we want to try to peel out and do something with. So we need to sort the strings, sort the responses, and only process the good ones, right? That's our plan. We want to sort the responses, process the good ones, and on the good ones, we want to take the XX string characters out of the string. We want to convert the XX string characters into XX numbers, and then we want to assign the XX numbers to the fader, and that would give us real feedback, which would be great. I can't think of anything else we need to do here. I think this actually is a solid plan. I do have a question. Should we go about doing that right here?
Oh, you want us to make a function, right? This thing's ugly. We got to separate that.
I do want us to make a function for a couple of reasons. One of the reasons, and maybe the primary reason, is that if we start writing code right here, then think about it. We're already like 3 levels of indentations in. We're going to go another 3 levels of indentations in. And then our code not only is going to get long, which makes it hard to read, but it's also going to get wide, which also makes it hard to read. So sometimes we write functions because we're going to use that code over and over and over in multiple places. Sometimes we use functions simply as means of breaking out logical chunks of code so that we can simplify our code. Because part of just a rhyme and rhythm to writing code is if I can't see the complete thought on one page, right? If I've got to scroll up and down to see the one complete thought, I probably need to break things down into smaller thoughts. That's part of the move that we're going to make here. So all of these little notes that we just made for our game plan, we're actually going to extract them. And we're going to come up here north of our event handler, and we're going to paste them there because we are going to make a function. What do you want to call it, Nate? Let's call it...
I'm calling mine, get that number out that data.
That's awfully wordy. I'm going to call it func parse level. And what is func parse level going to be parsing? A string. So we're going to pass in arg string, and we're going to do things with it. In fact, we can already come down into our event handler and call func parse level and pass in the string that we are going to parse. First thing we need to do is sort the responses so that we can find the good ones from the bad ones. Any ideas?
I think I'm going to write a 100 different variation if-else flow that says, if I get LVL 01, then I give myself 01. If I get LVL 02, then I give myself 02. And I'll get back to you in a couple hours when I finish that.
That's true. That is a way of approaching this problem. It's a pretty miserable approach. So let's not take that one. Let's not. In fact, I'm going to give you an injection of information. In the string library, there is a handy function called string.find. String.find takes two arguments. It takes a string to look in and a pattern to find. So in our example here, string.find of look in hello world for the pattern WOR makes two returns. It returns 7 and 9. Nate, any idea? What is 7 and what is 9?
That's what happens when you take 7 of 9 from Star Trek and you split her in half.
Cool. Any other ideas?
That looks to me like it is the character placement of the word of the characters you're looking for in that string.
It is indeed the position of the character of W and the position of the character R. So this is actually pretty good information. It will tell you where the pattern starts and where the pattern ends. In fact, it'll tell you if you have a longer string, it will tell you where the first occurrence of the match takes its place.
And that means we don't need to bifurcate Jerry Ryan, right?
We don't.
Good.
Now let's look at the second example because you might think it isn't useful, but actually it's the one that is perhaps most useful. String.find of the string hello world, the pattern WAR. In fact, it returns the value of nil. My argument to you is that this actually is very useful information because what it's telling me when it says nil is that it doesn't find the pattern. We actually can use that to help us sort our messages. Ideas of how we can use that, Nate?
So we know that the good messages are going to have LVL in them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we look for LVL and it returns back to us 1, 3, then we could, then that's a good thing. But even easier than that, we could just say, hey, if it's not nil, if you didn't give me nil, then I know I found it. Is that where I'm going?
You are on the right track. So let's write a conditional statement. If string.find, and we are going to look in arg string for what pattern? As Nate suggested, let's look for the ones we want to find, LVL at messages. If the result of that is nil, then that means something. Else, it means something otherwise, which seems obvious, but what does it mean if we found nil?
Means it ain't in there.
It means it's not in there. Exactly. So we can make a little note to ourselves here. Func parse level did not find the droids it was looking for.
Well, we are mixing fandoms now. Oof.
It's okay. Otherwise, what does it mean? It means func parse level got good data. And so let's try this out. Hit save and move your fader just a hair. Ooh, okay. So when we restarted the script, it said, welcome to Really Good Lights. And func parse level said, did not find the droids it was looking for. Then when we moved the fader, we got back LVL at 32, and it says func parse level got good data. We are in business. We're ready to move forward. If we are keeping score, we just did number 1 in our game plan. Which, by the way, you should still be doing this whole game plan approach. You should be planning out what it is you want to do, right? Sort out the logic before you start trying to tackle syntax. Because part of our battle, if you were really thinking about what we just did, was that we figured out that we needed some method of sorting good messages from irrelevant messages. We didn't know what that syntax was, but we knew what kind of thing we needed. That's sometimes half the battle of figuring out what new syntax is that you don't know. You know what you need it to do, then you can go find the tool that does the thing that you need. That's what we did.